Right now, millions of people are walking around carrying invisible wounds, and most of them don't even know which battle they're fighting. They use the words trauma and abuse like they mean the same thing, but they don't. And this confusion, it's keeping them stuck in cycles they can't break free from. Today, we're breaking down the 9 critical differences between trauma and abuse that will completely change how you understand your own experiences. By the end of this video, you'll have clarity that could literally transform your healing journey. So let's dive straight into this. Difference number 1, the source and origin. Abuse is an action. Trauma is a response. Think about that for a moment. Abuse is something that happens to you, while trauma is something that happens within you as a result of what you experienced. Abuse comes from an external source, another person, a system, an institution. It's deliberate harm inflicted by someone else. Trauma, on the other hand, is your nervous system's reaction to overwhelming experiences. It's how your brain and body process events that were too much to handle at the time. Here's where it gets interesting. Not everyone who experiences abuse develops trauma, and not everyone with trauma has been abused. Someone might experience a natural disaster, a medical emergency, or witness something horrific, and develop trauma without any human perpetrator involved. Meanwhile, some people experience abuse, but their support systems and coping mechanisms help them process it without developing lasting traumatic responses. The confusion between these two concepts has led countless people down the wrong healing path. They're trying to heal trauma by focusing only on the abuse, or they're addressing trauma symptoms without understanding the abuse that caused them. Difference number 2, duration and timeline. Abuse typically happens over a period of time. It has a beginning, middle, and hopefully an end. Even single incidents of abuse occur within a specific time frame. Trauma, however, lives outside of time. Your body doesn't know that the dangerous situation is over. To your nervous system, the threat is still present. This is why someone can be decades away from their abuse, but still feel like it's happening right now when they're triggered. The body keeps the score, as they say, and trauma exists in a perpetual state of now. It doesn't care that you're safe today. It's still protecting you from yesterday's danger. Understanding this difference explains why healing isn't linear. You can intellectually know that you're safe, that the abuse is over, but your trauma response doesn't operate on logic. It operates on survival. Difference number 3, intentionality behind the harm. This one might shake up everything you thought you knew. Abuse always involves intention to harm, control, or exploit. There's a conscious choice being made by the abuser. Trauma, however, can result from completely unintentional circumstances. A parent who's dealing with their own untreated mental health issues might create traumatic experiences for their child without any intention to cause harm. A medical procedure that saved your life might still traumatize you. Natural disasters, accidents, sudden losses, these can all create trauma without any human intention behind them. This distinction matters because it affects how we process and heal. When trauma comes from intentional abuse, there's often an added layer of betrayal and violation that needs to be addressed. When trauma comes from unintentional circumstances, the healing journey might focus more on making meaning from randomness and rebuilding a sense of safety in an unpredictable world. Difference number 4, control and power dynamics. Abuse is fundamentally about power and control. The abuser uses their position, strength, authority, or influence to harm someone with less power. There's always an imbalance, and the abuse serves to maintain or increase that imbalance. Trauma, though, is about overwhelm. It happens when your capacity to cope is exceeded by what you're experiencing. There doesn't need to be a power dynamic involved. You can be traumatized by situations where no one has control, natural disasters, accidents, sudden illness. But here's something most people miss. Even in abuse situations, it's not the power imbalance itself that creates trauma. It's your nervous system's response to feeling powerless and overwhelmed. Two people can experience the same abuse, and one might develop trauma while the other doesn't, depending on their individual capacity to process and integrate the experience. Difference number 5, symptoms and manifestations. Abuse leaves evidence. Sometimes it's physical marks, sometimes it's behavioral changes, sometimes it's emotional responses. But abuse creates specific patterns that trained professionals can identify. Trauma symptoms, however, are your body's adaptive responses gone haywire. Hypervigilance, flashbacks, emotional numbing, difficulty sleeping. These aren't signs of weakness or damage. They're signs that your survival system is working overtime to protect you from threats that may no longer exist. The symptoms of trauma often make perfect sense when you understand what they're trying to accomplish. That startle response that seems over the top. Your nervous system is making sure you're ready for danger, those intrusive memories that won't go away. Your brain is trying to process and file away an experience that was too overwhelming to handle when it happened. Difference number 6, legal and social recognition. Society recognizes abuse. We have laws against it, systems to report it, and general agreement that it's wrong. Trauma, though, often goes unrecognized or misunderstood. People might acknowledge that someone has been through something difficult, but they don't always understand the lasting impact on the nervous system. This creates a frustrating situation where abuse survivors might get validation for what happened to them, but struggle to get understanding for how it's still affecting them. Comments like, "That was years ago," or "You should be over it by now," show how little people understand about trauma's timeline. The legal system can prosecute an abuser, but it can't prosecute trauma. There's no court that can sentence your hypervigilance to stop or order your flashbacks to end. This difference in recognition affects everything from how we talk about these experiences to what resources are available for healing. Difference number 7, responsibility and blame. This is where things get really important to understand. Abuse is never the victim's fault. Never. The person being abused is not responsible for the actions of their abuser, regardless of their behavior, choices, or responses. Trauma, however, becomes your responsibility to heal. Not your fault that it happened, but your responsibility to address. No one else can do your trauma healing for you. This isn't about blame, it's about empowerment. You can't control what happened to you, but you can influence what happens next. This distinction is crucial because it helps people move from victim to survivor to thriver. You're not responsible for what was done to you, but you are responsible for what you do with it now. Difference number 8, treatment and healing approaches. Stopping abuse often requires external intervention, law enforcement, protective services, legal action, or physically removing someone from a dangerous situation. The focus is on changing external circumstances to create safety. Healing trauma, though, is primarily an internal process. It's about helping your nervous system recognize that you're safe now, processing stuck emotions and memories, and developing new coping skills. The work happens inside you, even though it might be supported by relationships and external resources. This is why someone can be in a completely safe environment, but still struggle with trauma symptoms. Their external situation has changed, but their internal world is still responding to past threats. Effective trauma treatment addresses the nervous system's responses, not just the circumstances that caused them. Difference number 9, long-term impact and recovery. Abuse ends when the abusive situation ends. You can't be actively abused by someone who's no longer in your life or by a system you've removed yourself from. But trauma can continue long after the original threat is gone. The impact of trauma isn't just about remembering bad things that happened. It's about how those experiences changed your brain's wiring, your body's responses, and your perception of safety in the world. Recovery from abuse might mean learning to trust again or rebuilding your life. Recovery from trauma means rewiring your nervous system's automatic responses. But here's the hope in all of this. Trauma is treatable. Your nervous system has an incredible capacity to heal and adapt. With the right support and approaches, you can move from survival mode to actually thriving. Understanding these differences isn't just academic knowledge. It's practical wisdom that can guide your healing journey. When you know whether you're dealing with abuse trauma, or both, you can choose the right tools and resources for your situation. Some of you watching this are realizing for the first time that what you experienced was abuse. Others are understanding that your ongoing struggles might be trauma responses rather than personal failings. Both of these realizations can be life-changing. If you're dealing with trauma responses, remember that your symptoms made sense when they developed. Your nervous system was doing its job to keep you alive. The fact that these responses might not serve you now doesn't mean they were wrong then. If you experienced abuse, know that it wasn't your fault, regardless of what anyone told you. Abusers are skilled at making their victims feel responsible for the harm done to them. That's part of how abuse works. It distorts your reality. The journey of healing is different for everyone, but understanding these distinctions gives you a roadmap. You can't heal what you don't understand, and you can't change what you don't acknowledge. Remember, seeking help isn't a sign of weakness. It's a sign that you're ready to reclaim your life. Whether you're working with a therapist, joining a support group, or using self-help resources, the fact that you're here learning about these concepts shows you're already on the path to healing. Your past does not have to define your future. The experiences that hurt you don't have to continue hurting you forever. Healing is possible, and you deserve to feel safe and whole. If this video helped you understand your experiences better, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. What was the biggest insight for you? Which of these differences resonated most with your situation? Your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. Don't forget to hit that like button if this content was valuable to you, and subscribe if you want more videos about mental health, trauma, and healing. Your support helps me create more content that can reach people who really need this information. Speaking of which, if you missed my last video about every symptom of high-performing anxiety explained, make sure to check that out next. High-performing anxiety is something that often develops as a response to trauma or abuse, and understanding those symptoms can be another piece of your healing puzzle. Thanks for watching, and remember, your healing journey is valid, your experiences matter, and you're stronger than you know.